The night was quiet, and the street was almost empty. Soft rain touched the ground, and water made small circles in the puddles. Streetlights gave a weak yellow glow, showing the wet road and broken walls. In that silence, only one sound was clear: the footsteps of a young man carrying a plastic bag. He was not rich, not famous, just a simple man with a simple routine. Every night he brought food for the stray dogs in his area. He worked during the day, and at night he always made time for them. He believed that even small kindness mattered in this world. And the dogs knew him. They always waited for him, wagging tails and hungry eyes. But tonight something felt strange. The road was empty, no sound of barking, no paws running toward him. The corners where dogs usually slept were quiet. The man looked around, confused, wondering why no one came. The air itself felt heavy, as if the night was holding its breath, still. He bent down and placed the food near the old broken bench where he always left it. He whispered, "Come on, friends, food is here." But no dogs appeared. Only silence answered. His heart beat faster, but he tried to ignore it, telling himself maybe the dogs went somewhere else. Then he heard it, not barking, not running, but a soft sound like breathing, weak and uneven. He froze, listening carefully. The sound came from behind him, just a few steps away. Very slow, very quiet, but it was there. The man turned his head slowly, and what he saw was something he could not believe. Two figures stood in the shadow, small and thin, almost shaking. They were not dogs, not people he knew. Their skin was pale, their eyes large and shining faintly in the dim light. Their clothes were torn, strange marks glowing faintly on the fabric. He felt his throat go dry. For a moment, he thought it was a dream, or maybe he was tired from work. But no, they were real, standing only a few steps away. They looked young, like children, but not human children. They looked hungry, weak and lost. The plastic bag in his hand trembled. He stepped back once, fear rushing through his chest. But the two figures did not move toward him. Instead, their glowing eyes moved to the food he had placed on the ground. They stared at it with the same hunger he had seen in the stray dogs. It was clear they were starving. His fear began to mix with something else: pity, sadness, and a strange feeling of responsibility. They were not attacking, not making any sound, only watching the food. He realized they were not dangerous at this moment. They were just hungry, and hunger was something he understood, something human. He slowly lifted his hand, showing he meant no harm. He stepped back a little more, giving them space. The figures hesitated, then slowly moved forward. Their steps were weak, like their bodies were too tired to hold them. When they reached the food, they dropped to their knees and began eating quickly. Not with anger, not with violence, but with desperation. The sound of chewing mixed with the rain falling around them. The man stood still, his heart still racing. He watched them in silence, afraid to speak, afraid to break this fragile moment. He saw how thin they were, bones showing under their skin. He saw the glow in their eyes flicker like a dying light. And for the first time in his life, he realized this night was not normal. This was not about stray dogs anymore. This was something bigger, something far beyond his world. The rain grew heavier, but he did not move. He could not. Something deep inside told him this was the start of something he would never forget. And as the two strange girls ate under the broken streetlight, he felt one thing for sure: his life had just changed forever. First contact. The rain did not stop. It fell harder, making the street shine like silver under the weak lamps. The young man stood still, watching the two strange girls eat the food meant for the stray dogs. His chest rose and fell quickly, because his mind could not accept what his eyes were seeing. They were not human. Their faces looked almost human, but too perfect, too fragile. Their eyes were wide, glowing faintly like stars trapped in water. Their skin looked pale, almost silver when the rain touched it, and the marks on their torn clothes still glowed faintly in the dark, like symbols from another world. He wanted to ask something, but no words came. What language would he even use? Would they understand him? His tongue felt heavy, his voice locked inside. So he just watched, waiting, unsure. The girls ate fast, hands shaking, like they had not seen food for many days. One of them coughed, and he noticed her shoulders trembling. The other placed a weak arm around her, almost like sisters protecting each other. That simple action touched him more than anything. He realized they were not monsters, not demons, not threats. They were just children lost, hungry, scared. The man stepped a little closer. The ground made a soft splash under his shoes. The girls froze, their glowing eyes snapping up to him. For a second he thought they would run, but instead they crouched low, hands covering the food as if he might take it away. He lifted both hands slowly, showing he carried nothing. His voice finally came out, soft and careful. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." The words hung in the rain. Simple but honest. The girls stared at him, heads tilting slightly as if listening. They did not reply, but something in their eyes changed. Less fear, more curiosity. One of them took a step closer. Very small, very slow. Her bare feet touched the wet ground, and she shivered under the cold night. The man's breath caught. Every instinct in him told him to step back, but he didn't. He stayed still, letting her come closer. When she reached him, she lifted a hand. Her fingers were thin, almost glowing under the streetlight. She touched his wrist lightly, and in that moment, something impossible happened. His vision filled with images not his own. He saw fire. He saw a sky filled with burning ships. He saw shadows chasing children through dark corridors. He felt fear, pain, and the desperate need to escape. It was not his memory, it was hers. The touch lasted only a second, but it shook him deeply. He gasped and stepped back, his heart racing. The girl lowered her hand, weak and tired, her glowing eyes watching him with sadness. She did not speak, but she did not need to. He understood the message. They were refugees, running from something terrible. They were not here by choice. They were here because they had nowhere else to go. The other girl pulled her sister back gently, and they both looked at him with caution. The man's hands shook, but not from fear now. It was something else, something he had not felt in a long time. A strange sense of duty. He could walk away, leave them, pretend this never happened. But when he looked at their thin arms and starving faces, he knew he couldn't. The rain grew louder, echoing off the broken buildings. He took off his jacket and held it out. The girls looked at it, then at him. For a long moment they hesitated. Then one of them reached out and slowly took it. They wrapped themselves in it. Shivering less now, the man sighed in relief. It was a small thing, but it felt like the first step. He whispered again, "It's okay." Safe. The word safe seemed to spark something. The girls looked at each other, then back at him. Their glowing eyes softened. Not as sharp as before. One of them gave a tiny nod, almost invisible but real. The man realized something powerful. Trust was beginning. Not through words, not through logic, but through simple kindness. He stood there, soaked by the rain, heart heavy but calm, and in that silence, something new was born. Not fear, not danger, but a fragile bond. A bond between human and alien. A bond that could change everything. The bond. The night felt longer than usual. The rain slowed, but the street still glistened under the pale lamps. The young man stood close, watching the two strange girls wrapped in his jacket. Their glowing eyes were softer now, not as sharp as when he first saw them. They were still weak, still cautious, but no longer afraid of him. He stayed quiet, letting them finish the food. Every bite they took felt heavy with meaning. He realized he had done this for years, feeding strays, showing kindness to creatures left behind. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, his kindness had crossed a boundary he never imagined. From animals to something not even of this earth. The younger girl leaned her head against the older one's shoulder. She looked exhausted, her small frame trembling in the cold. The older one pulled her closer, wrapping the jacket tighter around both of them. That simple act struck him deeply. It reminded him of siblings protecting each other. A bond of love that needed no words. The man stepped closer and crouched, his eyes level with theirs. He spoke softly, his voice barely louder than the rain. "You're safe here." He did not know if they understood, but something in their eyes said they did. The younger one blinked slowly, almost like a tired child who wanted to trust, but still feared disappointment. For a moment, the world around them felt silent. The empty buildings, the broken bench, the rain falling, it all faded. Only 3 lives remained in that circle of light. The man and the 2 strangers from another sky. He felt a weight pressing on him, not of fear, but of responsibility. The dogs finally returned, their paws splashing softly in the puddles. At first, the man worried they might bark or attack the girls, but instead, they stopped at a distance, tilting their heads curiously. The pack of strays sniffed the air, then sat quietly, tails wagging slowly, as if they sensed the girls were not enemies, but something that needed protection. This surprised him more than anything. If even the animals could accept them, then maybe he could too. The younger girl reached out weakly, and one of the dogs walked forward. It sniffed her hand, then licked her fingers. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter for a second. A small sound escaped her lips. Not a word, but almost like a laugh. The man felt his chest tighten at the sight. For the first time since he saw them, they looked alive, not just desperate. The older girl watched him carefully, her head tilting again. She pointed at the food bag he still carried. He nodded quickly, pulling out the last piece of bread and placing it in front of them. She did not grab it immediately. Instead, she pushed half toward her sister and waited. That patience told him everything. She was protecting, guiding, making sure her sister survived first. It was a language older than words, the language of care. The man sat down on the wet ground, not caring about his clothes. He wanted them to see he was not a threat, not above them. Just another being who understood hunger, loneliness, and the need to belong. The rain dripped from his hair as he whispered again. Safe. This time, the older girl's lips moved, repeating the sound. Her voice was rough, broken, but the attempt was real. Sa-fa, she said, her accent strange but clear enough. The man's heart pounded in his chest. It was not just survival now, it was communication. A bridge had started forming, fragile but powerful. He looked at the sky, dark clouds hiding the stars. Somewhere above those clouds was the world they came from, a world burning, broken, pushing its children down to earth with nothing but fear and hunger. He did not know their story fully yet, but he knew one thing: they did not belong to the shadows. They did not deserve to starve. They deserved safety and maybe hope. The dogs curled around them, giving warmth. The man stayed close, watching as the younger girl slowly closed her eyes. The older one kept her eyes on him, still cautious, still protecting. But in her glowing gaze, he saw less fear and more trust. It was the beginning of something neither of them expected. Not an accident, not a random meeting. It felt like fate pulling 2 worlds together. The man whispered one last time before standing, "I'll come back. I'll bring more food." The older girl blinked once, slowly, like she understood. The bond was there now, fragile but real, and deep inside, he knew this was no ordinary night. This was the start of a story far greater than himself. The secret. The rain finally slowed, leaving the streets wet and shining like glass. The man walked home with heavy steps, his mind racing with what he had seen. 2 alien girls, starving, frightened, and yet so human in their need. He tried to tell himself it was impossible, that he had imagined it. But the jacket he had given them was gone, and the memory of glowing eyes burned too strongly in his mind. That night he could not sleep. He lay awake, hearing every sound outside. Every car, every bark, every drop of rain. His thoughts returned again and again to the vision he had felt when the older girl touched his wrist. Fire, destruction, fear. It was not a dream, it was her truth. And somehow she had shared it with him. The next evening, he went back to the same place. The dogs greeted him first, tails wagging, circling around his legs. But his eyes searched for only one thing. And soon he saw them, 2 figures waiting in the shadows. They stepped forward slowly, still cautious, but no longer hiding. When they saw the bag of food in his hand, their eyes lit faintly. The bond was still alive. He placed the food down again, and the girls moved closer. This time, he noticed more. Their clothes were not just torn fabric, they were uniforms. Strange and unfamiliar, the glowing marks on them were not random scratches. They were symbols, curved and sharp, like a language not meant for Earth. When the younger one bent down, the mark on her shoulder flickered brighter. The man leaned closer, trying to understand. The older girl saw him watching and stiffened. She stepped between him and her sister, her glowing eyes hard. He raised his hands quickly, shaking his head. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt her," slowly. She relaxed, but her gaze stayed sharp. The man realized something. She was not just older. She was a protector, maybe even a soldier. She carried a burden too heavy for someone her age. When the girls finished eating, the older one stepped forward. She reached for his wrist again. He froze, but let her. Her touch was colder this time. But the vision came again, stronger than before. He saw a ship breaking apart in flames. He saw shadows in armor chasing children through smoke. He saw two small figures running, holding hands, crying, and then a door opening, a light pulling them through. The vision ended with darkness, and his knees nearly buckled under the weight. He gasped for air, clutching his chest. The older girl pulled her hand back, watching him closely. Her glowing eyes softened, almost apologetic. She wanted him to know, to understand. They were not here by choice. They were survivors, running from a war too big for their world. The younger girl made a sound then, soft and broken. It was almost a word, but twisted. Like her tongue did not know the shape, she pointed upward, toward the sky hidden behind the clouds. The man followed her gaze, his heart sinking. Above them was the endless sky, and somewhere beyond that her home. Gone or burning, the truth struck him hard. They were not just refugees, they were orphans of the stars. The dogs sat closer to the girls now, as if they had chosen their side. The man knelt on the wet ground, his voice shaking. "I don't understand everything," he said slowly. "But I know you're not safe here." The older girl blinked, tilting her head. For the first time, she touched her own chest and then pointed at him. Her lips moved with effort, shaping one broken word. "Safe," she whispered, her voice fragile but clear. The sound made his throat tighten. They were asking him for protection, trusting a stranger with their lives. He looked around the dark street, the broken buildings, the quiet shadows. He knew danger was not far. The vision had shown armored hunters, and hunters always follow their prey. It was only a matter of time before someone came looking for them. The man realized his world had split in two. One choice led to safety for himself, walking away, forgetting them. The other choice led to danger, but it also led to something greater. A chance to protect, to fight for something beyond himself. The rain had stopped now, leaving the night sharp and cold. The girls huddled close, their glowing eyes never leaving him. The strays curled around them, silent guardians in the shadows. And in that quiet moment, the man understood. Their secret was not just about their past, it was about their future. A future that, somehow, now depended on him. The danger the next nights passed with quiet tension. The man returned again and again, bringing food, bringing warmth, bringing trust. The girls no longer hid in the shadows. They sat waiting under the broken lamp, wrapped in his jacket, glowing eyes soft when they saw him. The bond grew stronger, but so did the weight in his chest, because he knew secrets never stayed hidden forever. And he had started noticing things. Unmarked black vans parked in alleys late at night. Men walking in pairs with earpieces, scanning the empty streets. Their boots too heavy, their silence too sharp. Not neighbors, not police, hunters. At first he thought it was his imagination. But then one night, as he left the girls with food, he caught the reflection of a red light on the wall. A laser sight, scanning, searching. He ducked quickly, pressing against the wet bricks. The beam passed by him, slow and patient. His heart pounded. Sweat cold on his skin. They were here, and they were close. He rushed back to the alley where the girls waited. The dogs growled low, ears raised, tails stiff. The girls looked at him with confusion. Sensing his fear, he crouched down, whispering fast, "We have to go." Now they tilted their heads, not understanding the words. But his tone was clear. Danger was coming. The older girl stood quickly, pulling the younger to her feet. The pack of strays followed, their growls filling the dark. The man grabbed the food bag, tossing it aside. Food no longer mattered, survival did. They ran, footsteps splashing in puddles. The man led them through narrow streets only locals knew. Twisting alleys, broken fences, shortcuts hidden between forgotten houses. Behind them, heavy boots hit the ground, steady and organized. Voices and sharp whispers cut through the night. The hunters had found the trail. The younger girl stumbled, coughing, her weak body slowing down. The man turned, scooping her up without thinking. She was light, too light, her bones pressing through thin skin. The older girl kept close, her glowing eyes darting to every shadow. For the first time, her expression was not only fear but also anger. A red beam cut across the wall in front of them. He stopped, pressing them against the cold bricks. Holding his breath, two figures in dark armor walked past the opening, scanning the street. Their helmets covered their faces, but their movements were precise. Hunters, not human law. Something more secret, something dangerous. The man waited until the beam moved away, then pulled the girls forward again. His mind screamed at him to stop, to hide, to give up. But his heart pushed him forward. Step by step, every choice now mattered. Every wrong turn meant capture. They finally reached an abandoned building. Half the roof collapsed. He guided them inside. Breathing hard, the dogs followed, silent shadows protecting the door. The girls huddled close together, shivering from fear more than cold. The man knelt in front of them, his voice shaking. "They're hunting you," he whispered, though he knew they could not understand. "They will never stop." The older girl leaned forward suddenly. She touched his temple this time, not his wrist, and again the vision came, violent and burning. Shadows in armor, weapons glowing, children screaming. A symbol flashed in the vision, the same symbol glowing on her torn uniform. Then came another image, terrifying, a dark figure with burning red eyes. Standing at the center of fire, the hunters were not random. They served something far worse. The vision ended, leaving him gasping, his hands gripping the floor. The older girl's eyes glowed bright for a moment, then dimmed. She looked at him, her face filled with silent plea. "Protect us," that was the message. And though fear twisted his stomach, the man nodded. He could not walk away now. Outside, the sound of engines roared. The black vans moved slowly through the streets, their headlights off, their windows black. The hunters spread out, boots echoing like drums in the night. The pack of dogs growled, fur bristling, ready to defend. But the man knew dogs could not stop men with weapons. This fight would require more than teeth and courage. He looked at the girls again, their glowing eyes locked on him. The younger one reached out, her hand shaking. She touched his arm and whispered a broken word. "Stay." The sound nearly broke him. Even in their fear, they wanted him near. Even in their weakness, they trusted him to be their shield. The man clenched his fists. The hunters were close, maybe minutes away, but inside him something had changed. He was no longer just a man feeding strays. He was the wall standing between these children of the stars and the shadows chasing them. And he would not let that wall break. The night held its breath again, but this time, it was not silence. It was the quiet before the storm. Humanity tested. The old building groaned in the wind, its broken roof dripping water. The man kept his back against the wall, his ears straining for every sound outside. Engines hummed low, doors slammed shut, boots struck the ground in rhythm. The hunters were here, and they were closing in. The girls sat close, shivering, their glowing eyes wide with fear. The younger one clutched his jacket tightly, her small frame trembling. The older one crouched in front of her, ready to shield her with her own body. The pack of dogs growled in the shadows, their eyes fixed on the door. It was a fragile fortress, but one touch would break it. A red light flickered through the cracks in the wall. The beam swept across the room, pausing, then moving on. The man held his breath, pressing a finger to his lips. The girl stayed silent, even the younger one holding in her whimper. For a moment, Hope flickered, maybe the hunters would pass. But then the crunch of boots stopped outside the doorway. The handle turned slowly, metal squeaking. The dogs barked fiercely, rushing forward. The door burst open with a crash. 2 hunters in black armor stepped inside, their helmets shining faintly in the dark. The man reacted before thinking. He grabbed a broken pipe from the floor and swung. The metal clanged against the helmet of the first hunter, sending him stumbling. The second hunter raised a weapon, a faint red glow charging at its tip, but before it fired, a sudden wave of force pushed him back. The man blinked in shock. The older girl stood with her arm outstretched, her hand glowing faintly. Her body shook with effort, but her power was real. The hunter crashed against the wall, sparks flying from his weapon. The younger girl gasped, her glowing eyes flaring brighter for a second. The man grabbed the girl's hands, pulling them toward the back door. The dogs leapt at the fallen hunters, snapping and biting. For a moment, the chaos gave them cover. They ran through the broken hall, stepping over rubble and shattered wood. Behind them, shouts filled the building. More hunters rushing inside. They burst out into the night air. The man dragged them down a narrow alley, his heart pounding. The older girl stumbled, but kept pulling her sister along. The younger one cried softly, her voice weak. But she didn't let go of his hand. Lights cut across the street as the black vans moved closer. Engines roared, tires splashing through puddles. Hunters jumped out, their weapons glowing in the dark. The man pulled the girls behind a wall, pressing them flat against the bricks. He peeked out, sweat dripping down his face. There were too many, more than he had ever imagined. He turned back, his voice shaking but firm. "We can't stop here. We have to keep moving." The older girl's eyes narrowed, as if agreeing. She lifted her hand again, her palm glowing brighter this time. The air shimmered, and for a moment, the ground itself shook. A crack split across the street, water spraying up from the broken pipe below. The hunters shouted in surprise, their line breaking. The man didn't wait. He pulled the girls through the chaos, weaving between shadows. His lungs burned, his legs heavy, but he refused to stop. Every step reminded him he was only human. But somehow that had to be enough. They reached another alley, darker and narrower. He pushed them behind a stack of crates, his chest heaving. The girls crouched close, clutching each other. The dogs regrouped around them, some bleeding, some limping, but still growling fiercely, loyal even against impossible odds. The man looked at the girls, his eyes full of fire. "I don't know why they want you," he whispered, "but I won't let them take you." The older girl stared at him, her eyes glowing with something new, respect, maybe even hope. She placed her hand on his shoulder, whispering one broken word, "Fight." It was not just a plea. It was a command. His throat tightened. He was not a soldier, not a hero, just a man who once fed stray dogs. But now 2 lives from another world were trusting him to stand. And somehow, that trust gave him strength. He gripped the pipe tighter, ready to face whatever came. The sound of boots grew louder, voices closer. The hunters had not given up. The night was far from over. But the man no longer felt alone. Beside him were 2 children of the stars, and around him were the dogs of the earth. Together, they would resist. Together, they would fight. The resolution the night had turned into a battlefield of shadows. Hunters searched every street, their weapons glowing like red eyes in the dark. Engines hummed, vans moved slow, scanning every corner. But in the forgotten alley, behind broken crates and rusted pipes, 3 fugitives and a pack of dogs held their ground. The man's chest burned with every breath. His body ached, but his grip on the pipe never loosened. The girls sat close, their glowing eyes watching him. The older one still weak from using her power, the younger one trembling but alive. The dogs circled them, growls deep, ready to die if they had to. The sound of boots grew louder again. The hunters were closing in, their formation tight, their voices sharp. There would be no more hiding. The man knew this moment was the line. Either they escaped, or they were taken. He turned to the girls, whispering harsh but steady, "No matter what happens, don't stop running. The older one tilted her head, not understanding all the words, but she caught the meaning. Her hand gripped his wrist, her eyes glowing with fierce trust. The younger one reached out too, whispering one broken word, "Stay." The man nodded once, and the weight of their trust pressed harder than fear. The first hunter turned the corner, red light sweeping across the alley. The dogs barked and lunged, teeth flashing. The man swung the pipe with all his strength, the metal clanging against armor. The hunter stumbled, and for a second, hope flickered, but more came, pouring into the alley like shadows with fire in their hands. The older girl stood, her arm glowing again. She pushed her power outward, the air crackling with energy. The hunters staggered back as the ground trembled, but the effort tore through her body, and she collapsed against the wall, coughing. The man caught her, lowering her gently. Her glowing eyes dimmed, but her grip on his sleeve was unbroken. The younger girl screamed, not in fear but in defiance. Her small hand lifted, glowing faintly, and for the first time, her power sparked weak, unsteady, but real. A wave of light burst outward, enough to blind the hunters for a heartbeat. The man grabbed both girls, pulling them into the chaos. The dogs followed, biting at the hunters' heels, slowing them down. They ran through twisting alleys, the night alive with shouts and gunfire. Every step was pain, every turn was risk, but somehow they kept moving. The city seemed endless, but the hunters never stopped, always behind them, always closer than before. Finally, the man spotted an old storage shed, half hidden by trees and rust. He shoved the door open, pulling the girls inside. The dogs rushed in too, tails low but spirits fierce. He slammed the door shut, heart pounding, silence. Except for their ragged breathing, the girls curled together in the corner, holding each other tight. The man leaned against the wall, sliding down until he sat on the cold floor. His hands shook, his chest heavy. But for the first time that night, they had a moment of stillness, a fragile island in a sea of danger. The younger girl lifted her head. Glowing eyes soft, she whispered again. The same word as before, "Safe." Her voice was broken, fragile, but it carried warmth. The man's throat tightened. He wanted to believe it, but he knew better outside. The engines still hummed. The hunters still searched. They had escaped for now, but the city was no longer theirs. The world was no longer his. He had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The older girl forced herself up, leaning against the wall. Her eyes glowed faintly as she stared at him. She pointed at her chest, then at him, then whispered a word she had never spoken before. Human. It was not a question, it was a recognition. She had chosen him as their protector, their ally, their family. The man looked at them, his heart heavy but resolute. He whispered back, "I'll protect you, no matter what." The words were simple, but they bound him to a path he could never leave. The girl's eyes softened, and for the first time, they seemed to truly believe. But then, through the cracks of the shed, a faint red light appeared. It moved slowly, sweeping across the wood, pausing like an eye searching in the dark. The man froze, every muscle tightening. The dogs growled low, their ears raised. The girls clung to him, their small hands gripping his arms. The hunters were still out there, closer than ever. The night was not over. The story was only beginning.